Alan, would you like to connect?
Well, I won't speak for very long with regard to this because most of the main points have been covered, but the one I would put some emphasis under is Robert's last point, and what the mayor talked so well about is the current system's encouragement of sprawl and low-density development. And in a lot of the organizations that Larry mentioned that I'm associated with, Maytree and Caledon and the others, we spend a lot of time dealing with the newcomer community, immigrants and refugees, around settlement and integration issues. We deal with poverty communities and questions of communities, effective communities, and how they come together. And these forms of development that have predominated for decades are really working against social inclusion, about the positive integration and settlement of immigrants, and we have to get away from that. We've got as you pointed out, we've got a financing system that is just underpinning an undesirable and untenable form of land use development, and we really need to stop that. And this is a critical tool in being able to do that. So I would encourage council to get behind this and to get on board it, to set the example you want to set. And I would also encourage the province to reconsider its reforms and strengthen them to take into account these reforms.
Thank you all. Wayne?
First of all, let me say people may be surprised to see me here. I should start off right off the bat that clearly over the years the trade union movement has made political contributions. I would point out that they probably are a fraction of what the contributions are from corporations. From my point of view, as someone who was a municipal politician 30 years ago, I can still smell the stench of what went on in municipal politics when people have so much money to make based on a zone change, the direction of a street, so many decisions that are made in municipal politics. And you know, I often think of how I would, when I was a politician, I would walk down the street and all these developers would toot their horn at me. 6 months after I wasn't a politician, they could be in the elevator and they didn't know me. There's just an amazing amount of money to be made, and people will do what it takes to make that money. So I think this is an idea whose time has not only come, it's came a long time ago. As was pointed out, it's happening across the country. The City of Toronto has a real opportunity here to send a clear message, and hopefully the message will be heard up the street at Queen's Park, and we can get that kind of legislation provincially as well. My final comment is that the average person who gets up in the morning and just wants to have a decent quality of life is competing with huge corporations that have so much money and can find ways to show support to politicians. I would agree with those who say that $750, $500 doesn't make a difference, but when you tack it all together in this incredible industry that exists in this community and communities right across this province, it's a lot of money and a huge amount of influence, and it is an example of an undemocratic practice that needs to be stopped.
Okay, Wayne.
So in interest of full disclosure, I should tell you that I'm a director of environmental defense, and also was founding chair of the Rescue Lake Simcoe Coalition, and a co-chair of Campaign Lake Simcoe. So I'm seeing this from two different angles, both as a developer and wearing my developer hat, you stole some of my thunder actually. I can tell you that as a matter of fact, that one's ability to stick handle a project through City Hall is as important a criterion for financial success as one's acumen as a businessman or expertise as a builder. So you've heard that now from a developer. It's absolutely the truth. Our greatest risk is what happens to us at City Hall. And while it's true that $750 does not change anybody's opinion, it does, nevertheless, when you're friendly with the people who were elected, give you the access to information. And for those of us in the development industry to understand where the breaking points are with the planning department, where the inflection points are with the building department, is every bit as important as the influence that one has in trying to persuade people to change their minds. But the most important point is that when people who get elected are pro-development to start with, and they're the only people who can get elected, then you don't really need to influence anybody to change their minds. They're on your side from the beginning. So it's not that these people are venal, it's that they are a peculiar dying breed who are becoming the mayors and the councilors of the small towns. And the reason that I'm here is that we worked for 4.5 years to get the Lake Simcoe Protection Act passed. So we get it passed, and a brilliant plan passed, and within weeks, the mayors are finding ways to go under the act, around the act, through the act, to get the exact same things done via other methods that they couldn't get done via the Planning Act and Building Code. So we realized that unless we had people representing the environment, heritage features of the lake and of the watershed, it didn't matter what acts we had in power. If the mayors of these small towns and the councilors made up the board of directors of the Conservation Authority, then guess what? It's very difficult to expect the staff of the Conservation Authority to make adjudications on things where it is not in the interest of their employment to vote against those issues that their bosses have already voted in favor of. And for the longest time, our biggest adversary, believe it or not, was the Lake Simcoe Lake Simcoe Regional Conservation Authority. And so what's happening now is we've realized that without municipal reform, there is no chance of any of the legislation, whether it's the Places to Grow Act, the Greenbelt Act, Moraine, none of these acts will be effective as long as somebody who's in favor of balanced growth, smart growth, as opposed to mindless growth, who understands that optimum growth and maximum growth are not necessarily synonyms. Unless you get those type of people in power, nothing is going to help. And guess what? The City of Toronto is the exemplar. If you guys vote in favor of this municipal reform, all of the other municipalities will fall in line. They'll be embarrassed not to. So on behalf of Environmental Defense and the Rescue Lake Simcoe Coalition, and myself as a developer, I hope you vote in favor. Thanks.